So thank you everyone for coming today. This should be a fun meetup. It's called Eat, Sleep, Code, Repeat. So it'll be kind of an AMA style event. Chelsea, our CEO, Chelsea Kaufman, will be leading our event today. So I'm going to go ahead and let her take it away. Thank you.
Hey all. I'm super excited to see some friendly faces in Zoom tonight. So yeah, like TJ said, we want to make this a pretty informal event. But again, my name is Chelsea Kaufman. I'm co-founder and CEO at Learn Academy. And I have 3 alumni here tonight as a part of our AMA, where you can ask them anything. We'll put them in the hot seat. I do have some prepared questions, so we can shoot those over if we have some time and space for that. But what I'd like to do, I'm going to have them introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about themselves, but just to kind of set up the way that we'd like to do this is that if you have a question, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand either physically in your camera, or you can do it using the raise hand function as well, or you can put your question in the chat. But I am going to ask everybody to kind of do a little hand raise thing like that so that we can try and avoid everyone talking all at once. Because I know you all came with all of your burning questions to ask. So great. So let me introduce to you our 3 panelists, Dante, Jeremy, and Lisa. If you would go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you were doing before Learn, when you attended Learn, and what you're doing now. Dante, you want to start us off?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Dante. I joined Learn Alpha 2019, right? Yeah, I think that's it. Before Learn, I worked in data. I was like a data scientist. I got kind of tired of just pulling numbers, and I wanted to actually be able to create things of my own. So I attended. Now I work as a software engineer at a company called BuyProxy. It's essentially Zillow for commercial real estate. And since the pandemic, I've also been working on my side company, which is creating solutions for small and medium businesses.
Great. Thanks, Dante. Lisa, you want to go next?
Hi, can everyone hear me? Okay, cool. I'm Lisa. I'm a accessibility analyst at Level Access. I was in the Echo 2000, what was it? I guess 2019 cohort. After that, I was working as a junior developer, and then I just recently started this job last month. And prior to then, I was an optometrist. I practiced for about 5 years. Then I kind of took a year off, had my son, and then when he was about 5 months old, I started Learn Academy. Yeah, so it's been a fun experience. Happy to be here and looking forward to your questions.
Thanks, Lisa. Jeremy?
Hey guys. I joined Learn, so I was Bravo 2020, a great year. So that was April to August of last year. Before that, I was jumping between different startups, either as a PM, so either working immediately with devs, or I was in production management, so working with project management, but via events. Worked up towards trying to be senior there, and then COVID happened, and basically every event related industry just nixed everyone because there's no conferences, there's no conventions, so there's no business. But before COVID, I actually was somewhat exposed to the idea of coding and developers, and it always piqued my interest because I would see my coworker's screen of just like text and going, oh my God, what are they doing? But then when COVID happened, I saw a golden opportunity to join a boot camp, and it was the best choice I've ever made. And now I am a front-end engineer at a boutique agency called Pack Digital. So we build and maintain headless e-commerce sites for lifestyle brands. Most notable ones that I fiddle in are like Liquid IV is one, and Cuts Clothing is another. And we build about 6, 7, 8 sites a year. So I'm really excited to be in this company and also to be in this industry.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. Well, I'll open it up to you all first. Does anyone have any questions? So what would you say, looking back on the course on your cohort, what's something that stands out to you now looking back?
I think how much I wanted to get the right answer and not really care about the solution. Like in the midst of it, I was like, how come I don't understand this? Now I don't understand, like, or whatever, I'll just look it up. That's kind of the mentality that I have now. But back in the day, it was very head against keyboard trying to figure out every single solution. Now it's Hakuna Matata.
I think for me, one thing that I learned through the process is like, people don't just know stuff. I always thought people who are developers they were so smart and they just knew everything. But I didn't realize that people look up stuff all the time and that you really can, you don't have to know everything. You just have to be kind of persistent and willing to kind of look for the answer. And that really serves you well as a developer too. So that was one thing I really learned.
Looking back, I would say deciding to join a boot camp is only half the battle. I think what stood out the most is realizing what you get out is what you put in 100%. You could just do the general syllabus and get by, and you wouldn't have taken advantage of how useful this course would have been. What I found surprising was how many living hours I put towards coding, and without even thinking about it, because I enjoyed it so much. Especially when you kind of come from like a 9-to-5 job, but to have 9-to-5 boot camp, but then just wanting to continue afterwards, just keeping learning. It was crazy to think about.
Awesome. Rudy, you have a question?
Yeah, so my question, let me lower my hand. My question is to the panelists. How do you think job seekers should change their approach to, seeking jobs as a result of, COVID times, and also maybe, this being kind of Q1, Q2, beginning of the year, companies are excited, people are excited, maybe there's, better pastures in the horizon. Maybe the approach from, maybe a job seeker's perspective, but also knowing where you're at in your company. Like, are there opportunities growing? Is there a sense of a rising tide at your company that they might be bringing on more people? So maybe kind of from both perspectives, if that question makes sense.
I don't know about my current company right now. I know like they kind of reopened hiring when I applied, because I think a lot of companies kind of waited a little bit to see how COVID would go. But my company I was working at before, it was like when COVID happened, they just had an increase of business. So it's really hard to know kind of I think companies are very different, but a lot of things with tech has continued to grow because people can continue to work from home. And there's certain things that, I don't know, there's more of a demand now that you need to provide some of these services remotely.
Yeah, to kind of echo that, I think we just hired an engineer today, and there's so many more developers because unfortunately people lost their job. So that passion has to be kind of greater because there's a larger pool to select from now. The guy that we hired today, he rebuilt our site in whatever language, added new features, and at that very moment, without even giving him the test, we're like, all right, we're going to hire this guy. The test was just the icing on top if he passed it, but just to see his passion for one, things that we worked on, and to have his own spin on that, that was enough for us to actually hire him.
I echo everything Lisa and Dante said. I'll start with a negative, which is the hard truth that the junior developer field is getting saturated. But the positive is that I do think companies are, especially now that 2020 is officially done, that they feel more comfortable bringing on new hires. For example, my company, we just outlined our 2021 plan, and it does involve hiring more React developers. Again, every company is different, but I think if you're going to be in an industry, this is probably one of the safest ones you can be in. But to echo Dante's point, because it's saturated, you really have to want it. And what I think is great with, at least when I got interviewed, is yeah, you have to be good at your coding, your technical coding interview, but if you have that enthusiasm and passion, they will see it and they will want that. Because being a junior developer isn't just being good at, again, the coding tests, but it's a company understanding that, or realizing that you are very willing to learn and keep learning. Because if you have that mentality, that they're more than happy to teach you. So just keep that passion going.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Brian, you have a question?
Yeah. I'm gonna lower my hand too. Okay. Hi. So I am part of the Delta 2020 cohort, literally just graduated. And now, so I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I'm finished with Learn. And it's like, okay, what else is there out there to learn about? And it's like, oh, everything on the planet. Okay. So I guess what I'm interested in is, how would you give advice as far as what types of things to focus on next? Like what are the important things that you found once you left Learn that you were like, oh, this is something that I latched onto and is really valuable to me now in my current position?
Do you have something you're particularly interested in or you enjoy?
Yeah, probably like I've done just on my own some data project type stuff. So kind of data things are kind of something I'm kind of looking to, and my mentor at my internship also pointed me in that direction, that he thought that was a really good idea. Things like that.
Yeah, so for me, like if you are able to already kind of identify something that you're really interested in, like I would say, at least for me, that's what I did, was just really try to focus on, like I had kind of a goal to get into the web accessibility, and then I did steps kind of along that way. So, for me, that was studying and learning a lot about front-end development, and not necessarily, and more just like the kind of just small steps. Like I had to like really try to get good at CSS, which like I was not. And then like, just take what the opportunities that I had and then, go from there. But if you kind of have an idea of what you really want to do and then just try to focus on that passion and develop those skills, then I mean, that's what I did. So, but it's hard sometimes because you're trying to, I mean, everyone's different. Like, you know, sometimes people, you need to like try to get any job and that's okay too. But if you have the opportunity to try to work on that specific area, like, you know, you can show your passion a little bit more when you're excited about something. And I think that shows through when you do interviews and stuff like that too.
Cool.
I had the same question you had. I don't really think you should focus on like a language or technology. I think you should take the skills that you have now and like harness them more, get comfortable and learning what you already know. And then once you feel comfortable, then go outside of that. But then there's the side of me that says, hey, you should also be a full stack developer in the latest technology, right? So React, TypeScript, GraphQL, like those are the bangers right now. But that's, I would I would caution you not to just only learn that, because then if you just go hard on that and then you go for a job and you don't get it, you're like, why the F did I learn all this? So definitely find what you're interested in and then just harness that. And the rest, I mean, I had to learn PHP. I hate PHP. I feel like it's an old man's technology, but I had to learn it. So now I know PHP. It's like, as you get working in these companies, you're going to have to learn technologies that you're not fond of, but it's just it's part of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to touch everything or every like hot topic just so you can have it on your resume or portfolio, or just so you can have a logo next to your name, will only get you so far, right? They'll see your resume and go, oh, he knows TypeScript, or he knows this and that. But when it comes down to it, like if you're only just okay or mediocre at everything, that won't get you that far. And what I learned was, if you know what you want, or if you feel like you're passionate about something, lean into it. Learn was great because you got to learn both sides, right? But I think once you realize where you want to go, lean into it. Just keep coding in that. Like Dante said, I would try to get way more comfortable in what you want to be in, and then maybe branch out. Maybe you know, like learn Node.js and learn this and that.
Okay.
But yeah, build side projects in the frameworks and language that you want to be good in.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I also wanted to mention, if anyone wants to send me an anonymous question, you can always direct message me in the chat. I'm happy to do it that way also. Oh, great, Rudy, jump in.
Cool. I didn't want to jump in front of TJ if he had one burning question.
Oh yeah, TJ, do you have a question, or is your hand just still raised?
My hand was still raised, but yeah. A lot of you guys have been talking about being passionate about coding. What are you passionate about coding? Is there some specific aspect that really is your drive inside of coding? Maybe start with Jeremy.
What I'm passionate about now is what I realized I liked the second I started trying to self-teach myself way before Learn. So this was like 2019, when I just like did free code camp just for the hell of it. Was like using a part of my brain that I haven't used in a long time, which is problem solving. And it was a high. And till this day, I have this high every day of like, what's the best way I can build this, or I can solve this. And the great thing is that even senior devs in my company will always try to figure it out and are humble and will ask other people. I mean, there's so many ways you could do something. And what's exciting is that throughout your career, you're just improving upon this problem solving. And it's really fun, honestly.
Anybody else want to jump in real quick?
So mine, it won't be. I'm passionate, but it's not like the passion that you would assume a developer gets. Like I like problem solving; it's fun. I'm a good developer, but I don't get like, oh yes, I solved the issue. That's not really my passion, and I hope it doesn't come across that I'm being disingenuous. It's just how I am. I like programming because it's something that I wanted to do. Now I'm doing it, but I don't wake up and like, "Ah, I can't wait to do my side project." That's not me. I'm I'm sorry. Sorry, Chelsea. I
I love your honesty.
For me, I'm very passionate about accessibility, so I'm really happy that I get to do as part of my job. But when I did do more like development that wasn't focused on accessibility, I really enjoyed debugging things. And some of these things that are not super glamorous, but are still pretty fun to be able to like figure out something and go down the path of like not knowing, and it's like so ups and downs. But I find that really fun too.
Awesome. All right, Rudy, we're going to circle back to you.
Cool. Thank you. So my question was, in the positions that you're at now, was this kind of like your dream position, or was it like the one spot out of like the 100 applications you sent out that you happened to then get, the job at, and then you actually end up liking it? Or are you or do you recommend just getting your foot in the door wherever that might be, and then just going ahead and doing it? I forgot my follow-up question to that was, but yeah, like, so I'm just thinking like, also was, how do you know whether a good first position is a good first position or a good first company to work at?
I can talk. I mean, this is my second job after graduating. I would say now I feel like this is like a dream position for me. I never thought that I would be able to get a job at this company, but I'm really grateful for that opportunity. When I was just searching for my first job, you come out, and I had I don't know how old he was, like a 1-year-old son. So I had kind of limited time, and it's hard. Job searching is hard. But I felt kind of lucky to find my first position. And although I don't think, like, obviously I'm in a different position now, so it wasn't my long-term position. But I do think, at least for me, even though it wasn't a perfect match, like it did help me kind of get to where I am. And there were some positive things that I learned out of my experience. And I still kind of like miss my old coworkers, and I'm grateful for the experience that I had. So I think it's really up to the person. It's really hard to know what jobs are going to be like until you start. And it's also hard to know, kind of, especially if you're new to the field, like what you really want to. So at least for me, I feel like being open-minded helped me. But just also kind of following what you want to do.
He's going. So my experience, so I'll tell you my experience, and it will seem so rosy and amazing, but then I will say the mindset I had before that, and I think people should have. So I feel very lucky. Every day I feel lucky. So I graduated in August. I got a verbal hire in September, and then I joined the team in November. It is my dream job. It is a company, and I do things that I want to be doing for years and years. lifestyle brands. I do some design work, not design work, but I have to use some of my design background to arrange, layouts and this and that. And my team is great. All that sounds amazing, right? But I want people to know that you shouldn't just rely on these success stories. I think you need to know the hard truth, right? It's hard. It will be hard. And I was fully prepared to be on the job hunt for 6 months, and I prepared for that. And I think, unfortunately, some people need to do that too. I mean, obviously, you want to get a job in 2 months or 3 months or that, but I think the company you want to find, if you have that option of choosing between companies, is one that is willing to teach you along the way. One that isn't just like putting you, like throwing you in the deep end, and then you just have to be heads down for months and months, right? One that understands your coding ability and will help you improve. If you can understand, so you learn this through the course, is that you are also interviewing the company when you interview. And if you feel like the company is just going to make you be like a monkey, a robot, maybe turn it down. But sometimes you don't have that privilege just to turn something down, and you take the first thing you get. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that, especially if there are reasons why you need money or you don't have time to keep waiting. There's nothing wrong with not having your dream job the first time around. You are going to be a software engineer for the rest of your life, right? For decades to come. This is just your first job, and you're going to get the experience you're going to get out of this first job. And then your next job is going to be better, and you're going to pay more. And the job after that, it's going to probably be better, and you're going to get paid more. It's all part of the process, and you just have to understand that that's how it's going to be. And there's nothing wrong with not landing your dream job.
Yeah, I mean, everything they said is true. I think when I first got my first job, it was maybe 3 months after Learn. I thought it was my dream job, and then on the phone, I mean, we're vibing. He's saying everything that I want. I'm saying everything that he wants to hear. And then you actually sit down, and then all of that support just goes away, and I'm just at my computer by myself, struggling for 8 hours a day. So after a month, I quit that job, and I did some freelancing kind of through Upwork, and I found my company that I work at now. Basically, I was working with them for 6 months. After that 6 months, they hired me on. It's a lot easier to see a company when you actually work there, but obviously you don't get to have that privilege when you're interviewing. But working with this company for 6 months before they hired me on, I could see their culture. Because, I mean, let's be frank, when you have an interview, I'm 6'11", 250 pounds on my resume, and they're saying that their culture is the best culture. They have all this mentorship. So you're trying to sell yourself, and they're trying to sell themselves to me. But once you actually get down and you see what's there at the company, they might not have the same support system you need, and you might not have the skills that they need because you kind of embellished. So I think Jeremy, he said it's going to be tough. A lot of my friends are still grinding, trying to find positions. It's even compound with how the economy is now. So, but at the end of the day, I think you need to have grit. Like, you definitely need to just keep grinding, because if you're going to quit, this probably wasn't for you. I shouldn't say that, because everyone has different circumstances, but if you truly want something, you're going to sacrifice. And unfortunately, some have to sacrifice more than others to get to that position.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
No more questions for you, Rudy.
No, Rudy can ask all the questions.
These are the hard-hitting questions. These are questions I've always asked, especially when I was in the course.
That's
I'm
good.
with you, Rudy.
Representing Alpha 2020. Yeah.
I appreciate all of your openness and honesty. I think it's important. Sarah.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Rudy asks the best questions. My question for the panelists is, do you still connect with anyone in your cohort? Are you still friends with anyone or meet up virtually at all?
So my class we do like Zoom. Unfortunately, I think we have never met up in person since our boot camp. But we do like regular Zoom kind of meetings to hang out.
I'm laughing because one of my classmates just texted me. I'm lucky enough to have built great relationships through my cohort. There's two that I'm in a Slack chat and we talk daily. Once post graduation, we are like the best of friends. Not saying that you should expect to make your best friend out of Learn, but I think you should lean into making relationships, especially virtually, because it's tough being alone. And just knowing that you can like vent to someone, like Sarah said this. Just kidding. Sarah's great. It's a nice outlet to have, because it's people that are going to go through the same things you're going to go through for months and months going forward.
So I like to think that my cohort is the most special one that Learn has ever had. We're party animals, a lot of Jack Daniels in the kitchen. Oh, you guys don't even know, man. Yeah, so we have a Discord. We just went hiking, so I hang out with Ace, Jarrett, Gabe, all of them. We went hiking, Rob. So I still talk to them, and it's really good to see their progression from when we first walked in February 2019 to where they are now. It's amazing because you can see that we used to like, oh, I want to be just like that developer, and we're still not that developer yet, but we have soon.
Everyone had a special cohort. They were all my favorites. Kuma, I know you have a question, but I kind of want to follow up on that real quick. I think that it's important to talk about our networks and our relationships. In your job hunts, or even in your like networking now, how important are those relationships, and how have you like kept engaging with them even in a virtual setting or however?
I'm gonna be real, I don't. I it's important to go to meetups. You should do all of that. You should do all of that. It just wasn't for me at the time. That's why now that I feel like I'm more comfortable in the role, I try to do these to find the Dante that's thinking the same thing and say, hey, you should go to meetups because it'll make your life a lot easier rather than trying to struggle by yourself.
I will say that I got my jobs through connections. And my first job was because my person in my cohort, he got a job at the company and then he referred me. So I guess he liked working with me. So I mean, just making those kind of connections with people where they like, so that they want to continue to work with you or engage with you is great. And I do think, I know it's hard right now with virtual meetups. At least for me, I've found it challenging to be able to like, no longer can I go up to people and meet people when I at a meetup and things like that. But I feel like trying to make those types of connections with people really can help a lot. And even, I mean, I never did this, but I've heard of people like reaching out to people on LinkedIn and, setting up like expressing your interest and stuff like that and trying to set up interviews, and that I've heard of stories of people using that to their advantage. So I know if I had been in the job market longer, that's something I would have done.
What's the question? Sorry, I was texting my mom. I can only assume what the question may be.
It was about your network and how important that is in the job hunt, and how to continue to engage that network in today's time.
I think the job hunt in general is two things. Things out of your power, or in your power and out of your hand, or in your power and out of your hands. And then out of your hands is luck, but in your power is networking. And I think the most immediate thing you could use out post Learn is Brian. Great career services at Learn. But then outside of that, it's tough. Honestly, I wish I had a good answer, especially in this climate, because I could just say like, oh, go to a meetup, or oh, like message someone on LinkedIn. So it's tough, but I think just keep grinding, honestly. Build up your portfolio so you're more confident in how you can present yourself. Or go to a meetup, and then if someone presents, like ask them a question on the side. The thing I learned is that the coding community is just so supportive. No matter if you're a junior or just took one Udemy class, or if you're a senior, everyone's willing to help you. So don't be shy or overthink asking someone something, or if you're burdening them because they're not. If anything, maybe you're helping them because they feel like they're finally giving back to the community that they were once juniors in.
Can I add a thing to the Brian comment? Brian collects a paycheck from Learn, so you should always harass him, especially if you just graduated. Like, if you're not annoying to Brian, you're not getting your money's worth. I'm being 100%, because he collects a paycheck, and every day on Slack, I'm like, yo, what's up, Brian? Any jobs? Yo, what's up, Brian? Any jobs? Like, I'm always in the front of his mind, because he's like, dude, I got to get rid of this guy. So I'm not saying that's a tactic, but you paid for it.
Yeah, I've told people, be on Brian's radar as soon as you graduate, or even like near the end of your internship, be on his radar, because when job opportunities come his way, he knows who you should refer. And if you're just someone that didn't put in the effort, why would he submit your resume over someone that's been bugging him and telling him, oh yeah, I just started this side project, or I just updated my portfolio? He's going to find that attractive, and he's going to continue to refer you.
Yeah, and it's like out of sight, out of mind, right? Especially people, I mean, for you guys are all virtual. Like, it's more intimate when you were in the classroom. We saw him every single day, but you guys are just little squares to him. So you have to put forth the effort to, like, hey, bother him, compliment his hair. He loves his hair. Just anything to get on his radar to get you a job. I'm 100% serious. He's not in here, is he? Yeah,
no,
he's not in
but
here.
I
We're
really
fine.
wish he was.
I have
Yeah.
so many good notes now. It's like
Yeah.
cheating.
It's great. I want to kind of add on to just what Lisa said, and just tell you a little bit about my experience. I've done lots of these panels where I've moderated, I've been on panels. I almost always get at least 2 or 3 people sending me a message on LinkedIn afterwards. And usually it's like, hey, I loved when you said blah, blah, blah. And you know what? It makes me feel pretty good. And I usually will respond back to them. And sometimes, depending on like the circumstance, like set up a meeting or things like that. But like, it doesn't, it is such a compliment to people, when you go to a meetup, even in this virtual space, and you don't say anything, or you're not like asking questions or part of it, even going to them afterwards and finding them on LinkedIn and sending them a message and say, hey, I was just in this meetup with you, and I really appreciated what you said about whatever or anything. And then, you'll almost always get, I bet Bree would respond to you if you reach them on LinkedIn. But anyway, I think that there are still some really great ways to kind of connect people in these virtual meetups. I know that it's hard because we don't have that same like networking space, like Lisa said, where you could just walk up to somebody and talk to them. And frankly, I think that's more frightening. And so I enjoy little tidbits of notes on LinkedIn sometimes. Kumba, I know that you had a question also.
I did. Thank you all so much for being so refreshingly honest and open and authentic. That's really awesome to hear. My question was, looking back at your time at Learn, what stands out the most for you?
For me, it was the internship. Like the learning part was fun, but my internship, I had it with Matt. He's emotive, and it was kind of what kind of pushed me to be a better developer. Like the first day I was with my friend and we're trying to get a ball to move with our brain waves. We have like this little headpiece on and we're copying and pasting code to get it to work. And then we go and show him like, hey, and it's not working. He's like, well, do you know what this does? Do you know what this does? And we're like, no. And he's just straight up told us, you guys are not script kids anymore. Like you guys have to start writing your own code. And then I was about to just quit there. I was like, yo, forget this guy. Let's go to another internship. But that is what kind of resonated, is like, you have to write your own code, or at the very least, understand what you're copying and pasting into your code base. And that month was so beneficial because he ran it like it was a real company. So when I actually got into a real company, it was normal. It was something that I was already used to.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
What stands out the most for you during your time at Learn?
Yeah, specifically in the world of Learn is the internship. Lucky me, I interned twice. First with Nate, and then with a partner immediately after. I think I'm trying to be a salesman for Learn, but the reason why I joined Learn over other things like UCSC or General Academy or General Assembly was the internship. And once I was in internship, I was just so grateful that I had this real world experience, because there's just so many developers out there that would pay just to have just to work for free, just so it's on their resume. So once you're in an internship, doesn't matter where it is, just lean into it, ask questions, see if you can get what you want out of it, and network there. That's actually, if not with people in your cohort or people at meetups, your internship, because those are real life developers, and they can introduce you to maybe people outside that company. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I mean, definitely my internship. I'm really grateful for that experience, but I'm also grateful for my cohort. Like, I really, I felt like it was really fun being in the classroom with everyone, and I'm grateful that I'm still able to keep in contact with people now.
One thing I want to add for the internship, this is going to get me in trouble. But if there's Chelsea, relax. If there's internships that are paying versus ones that are saying that they're willing to hire, you should go with the ones that are willing to hire. One, because you're investing time in a company and they're investing in you, and you know their code base, versus the quick buck that you're going to get with the company that may keep you on, that may not. A lot of my friends went with the companies that kept them on because they were looking to hire engineers, and like, hey, we have these juniors that we picked up at Learn, might as well just hire them on. That's just how I look at it. So especially if you can afford it, like if you can go whatever an extra month without pay, it's in the long term, I think it pays off.
I agree with that 100%.
Cool. Rudy.
If anyone else has a question, please step in. So right now, for me, one thing that I'm really trying to improve upon personally is like the technical interview piece, and going really deep now into lead code, data structures, and algorithms. And that really has been kind of the real crucible in my personal job search, and maybe a lot of other ones. Like, man, you got the you got the phone screen. Now is a technical interview, and then the live technical coding interview. Just kind of a couple. I don't know any kind of, and now we're doing Pramp, almost every other day, which is like online live technical coding interviews. Just wanted to have any thoughts for others out there towards your approach and preparations towards, and thoughts towards, the deep dive into like lead code, data structures and algos and preparations for tech interviews.
I will say preparation for interviews, for tech interviews, especially learning new algorithms. At the end of the day, learning that is just for your interview. I think they even have that idea when like Google, you have to learn, to prep, you have to learn all these things, but then once you're in Google, you're just like debugging code, right? So that's just unfortunately part of the process. There's just so much to learn. If you're getting a technical interview, you need to narrow down what you need to study. If they're using, what stack they're using, and then obviously fundamentals for that. And one thing that we didn't learn immediately in Learn that is useful is Big O. Big O, and just general algorithms in general, which again, you won't necessarily use, but I think that the process of trying to learn those is a part of the process of furthering your understanding of like arrays or objects manipulation.
For me, I only had one interview where I had to do like a technical interview, where they do like whiteboarding stuff, and so I tried to learn as much as I can in the limited time that I could. Did not end up doing very well on it, but my other since then, like for my first junior developer job, what they did is give me a take-home project, so I didn't even have to do a technical interview, or technical whiteboarding, I guess. And for that, like, I don't know if this is good advice at all, but I had to learn Angular JS in like a week. So I just really, and really learned Bootstrap, which I thought I knew it, but I really didn't know. So I just really worked really hard, and just gave it my all. I don't know if that's the best advice because it was like pretty stressful, but ultimately it did pay off because I did end up getting the job. So
the 2-week period of my interviews was probably the most stressed I've ever been in my entire life. During that time, I think the day of the interview, I had like, it was in the afternoon, or the tech interview was, I had like my bowel movements were just gnarly, just TMI, but like so much stress. But then once I was done, I was like, oh, thank God I did it. But just fair warning, it's pretty fucking stressful studying for these things.
I think, the whiteboarding and technical stuff is so like, unless you're not working for like one of the FANG companies, I really don't know why companies give that to you. We're not building rockets or anything, right? putting a button on a on a website. So my advice to you is, yes, do leak code, learn algorithms, because the principle is really important when you're writing code. What I do now is, I used to want to be like the smartest, like they give you the question, and I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 all the way down till I was stuck. Don't do that. Just get stuck on the first, second, or third line, right? Just and then they'll like, oh, work through it. You have the answer, and you just slowly work through it and because if you go too far down, they start adding more stuff. Then you'll actually get stuck. Pretend to get stuck, and then pretend to work through it. I'm sorry. That's how I did it for the first company. Is all the interviews I was trying to be the very best and get to the very bottom. And then once I get to the very bottom, they're like, all right, suppose that we have this scenario now. What do you do? I don't know. So I stopped doing that, and I went halfway, pretend to get stuck. And they're like, well, what would you do? I'm like, I think I would do this. Because leak code, I mean, all they do is go to leak code, copy and paste, get the answer, and they ask you the question. It's very, I don't know. It's a sour taste in my mouth.
I think that's a really interesting concept, because the whole point of them is to just see how you think, right? Like, it's not to actually give the right answer. And so they're going to keep pushing you until you get stuck, because they want you to get stuck, because they want to see what you do when you get stuck. And so I don't know if I would say that
just pretend now, guys.
I don't know if I could pretend. I'm not very good at that. But I think that what I would say is that practicing what you do when you don't know something and how you articulate that is a really good skill. That if you can really articulate what you do when you don't know the answer to a problem, that is a really good, as a manager, if I have somebody come to me and is like, this is what I would do, what do you think about that? Like, that's exactly what I want to hear from an employee. And so really thinking about like what you do when you don't know the answer and how to work through it, I think is important. Doing all the studying and looking into it, or pretending as if you're a really good actor. I can definitely see Dante doing that and being successful at it. But I do think that a lot of I agree, I'm not a super big fan of the whiteboarding. I don't think it's done well often because it's hard to do, like, because what you're trying to do is incite a conversation of like problem solving with a person that you've never met before, and that's a hard thing to do. That being said, I think that it's all great advice, like studying, going through the algorithms, learning especially the ones that are most common given in the whiteboarding, but also thinking about what you do when you get stuck and how to like talk that through with somebody that you don't know. So cool.
Yeah, exactly that. Don't when you're in your whiteboard, don't just solve the answer. You gotta walk through it. If anything, that's even more important than getting the answer right.
Yeah, because they will just keep asking you questions. Like if you go out, if they ask you a question, they don't, these days you don't actually do a whiteboard anymore, but you know, if they ask you a question, you just go up and put up the answer, they're going to just keep asking you questions because it's about thought process. It's about problem solving. It's also a lot about like, how will you work well with other people on my team and things like that. So it's testing a lot of things that are, I don't know, hard to test for. But that was a great question, Rudy. Thank you. Sarah.
Well, I'm gonna go back to our time in the Learn classroom. What was a project or challenge that you found taught you a lot, or maybe the most?
Was it like Pokemon Tinder or something? Or not Pokemon Tinder. It's like Animal Tracker, but I did Pokemon. Yeah, so that was like I think that was a Ruby on Rails project. And I remember the week before that, I was struggling. Like I was seeing all my other friends like just get it. And then that week is when things start clicking. It's like putting the back end with the front end, pulling the Pokemon, looping through everything. That was the week that actually kind of, because everything else before that, it was very kind of fragmented for me. But when we actually did like the full stack, that was the time that I'm like, oh, I'm good at this.
I think for me, it was the capstone project because we were, working with I think we were group of 4 people, and it was over a longer period of time, and you had a deadline. So it was more kind of realistic to what it's like when you're working, where you have to meet a deadline and have something deliverable.
Yeah, the project that echoed reality most was the capstone, working in a team. I would say the most symbolic personally to me was week 4, which is second week of React. I think first of all, going in and learning, it's like, I'm gonna be a front end dev. I'm gonna really like React. And then week 1 React, I was struggling. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And then week 2 React, the projects, that's when it started to click. And one of the projects I did was a battleship. And till this day, I use that as like a fun little game on my portfolio. The fourth week, learn, and it's still something I show off. That was really fun.
Awesome. So what would you say that what is something that you took away from the course that you learned about yourself through the course?
Resilience. It's a lot. Like you need to put in hours out of the class too. But then after it all, you realize like how tough you are, and you just end up being really proud of yourself. I'm proud of myself, and I haven't been proud of myself for years and years. So that.
This is a stretch, but I really think that I learned that you can really outwork people. Sarah can attest to this. I probably wasn't the smartest one in the class, and she's being nice. Like we had a guy, Tucker, he was a genius, and he used to say he used to go home and he would study for like 3 more hours. And in my mind, like, damn, if Tucker's going home and he's studying for 3 hours, I need to study 6 more hours because he's way ahead of me. So that's what I used to do is I used to go home, study for 6 more hours and come back tired, but maybe understand something just a little better. And eventually I feel like that gap started to close where like, when he was talking to me in the beginning, I'm like, what is this guy saying? Towards the end, I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. Yeah, that's working. So for me, I always believe that if you're smart, that's it, right? You can't catch that person, but slowly the people that aren't on that tier can slowly outwork someone and catch up in hours.
I think for me, one thing that I learned is if you are really interested in something, it's much easier to do than if you aren't interested. Like I always think back to like when I was learning some biology stuff in school, like it'd be so hard for me. And then, but it was mostly because I wasn't, I guess, as interested. I didn't realize there were things I'd be more interested in. So sometimes it's interesting how things work out.
What are 2 things that you would suggest for somebody just starting out in the course to like make the most of their experience, learn?
One is develop your soft skills. I used to think that was for the birds when Brian would go up there. I'm like, "Ah, you don't need that." But as I'm working in the field, I can see that everyone can be a good developer, right? But these skills that you don't inherently train are harder to obtain, right? We have people on the team that can't communicate or are harder to articulate their thoughts because you don't train those muscles. They think that I just need to be a good developer, but there's a whole other facet of I want to work with this person because they have good soft skills and I'm willing to understand that they're not the greatest developer, but I like everything else about them. I mean, that's pretty much how you get the job, right? You can be an okay developer, have a great personality, and you might get hired. So I really think one is developing those soft skills and be willing to put in time. Like if you want to be a developer for the money, I would probably there's way easier ways to get money. There has to be something else besides the money, right? That why you like to be a developer. It doesn't have to be problem solving. I like being a developer because I can take a lot of time off. I can work from home. Little did I know that in 2020 everyone could work from home, so that kind of backfired. But there has to be another reason besides the money. And if you're only doing it for the money, I think you're not be making Facebook, Netflix money in the beginning. So definitely do it for another reason.
This is for advice for incoming students, right, Chelsea? I would say above all is just go in with a growth mindset, knowing that this kind of echoes what Dante mentioned with trying to one-up his classmate, is that you will get better through hard work. Sounds really corny, but it's true. Through putting in the hours, through asking questions, accepting input, you just accumulate all that, you will become better and better. And don't ever doubt yourself. I mean, even senior devs have imposter syndrome and they doubt themselves. But every dev does that, so that should be somewhat comforting. Not just juniors.
For me, I think something really important, more than just trying to learn as much as you can, is just trying to make relationships with people. So maybe one of your other classmates, might not be like, you might have to spend time like really helping them or teaching them, and you feel like it's impeding your learning or something, but really it's still helping you because you're learning through working with them. And then I think, like, at least for me, I felt like the relationships have been the most important thing to me, above anything that I've like learned from the classroom.
Great. Thank you, guys. Well, unless anyone else has any other questions, I think I'm going to wrap up our night here. But I do want to thank all of you for coming and hanging out with us and listening to our pretty awesome alumni. I also really want to thank Lisa and Jeremy and Dante for hanging out with us also. I really appreciate it. Those of you that are just starting on your job search or just coming into the program or thinking about coming into the program, just so you know, you may get an email from me in the next 6 months asking you to sit on a panel, because we love hanging out with our alumni. And you never know, this could be you. So thanks everyone for hanging out, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And I hope to see your faces another time. And reach out to everyone on LinkedIn.
Thanks, guys. Don't be shy. I secretly want friends.
Thank you.
So.